Southgate to replace Erik ten Hag at Manchester United is coming in from Mark Ogden of ESPN that Erik ten Hag may be sacked at Manchester United, and Ineos are looking at Gareth Southgate to come in as a potential option. Now, there's two other options that have been talked about, which I'll discuss in this video: Thomas Frank and Roberto De Zerbi. Now, the thing is, you can see Ineos, before I start talking about each manager, Ineos have the clear intention to replace Erik ten Hag. Over the past few months, it's coming in, they're looking at numerous of managers to replace him, and it's clear that Erik ten Hag's future is uncertain at Manchester United. Some of the performances and the results that we've had recently have not been good enough, and that's been the thing that's causing him to potentially get the sack. Now, we know Erik ten Hag's a manager who has a lot of praise by the fans, and he has done some big things for us, one of our first trophy in 6 years. But the increasingly likely performances and the down tools of players have kind of put the sack in to be inevitable, in my opinion. I think, as I said, he's done a lot for the club, won us a trophy, but when you can see that football is a results game, so when the results are not well, it's looking like the sack will happen. Now, for me, Southgate as a potential option for me is shocking. If you look at Southgate's principle of playing football, he's very defensive, pragmatic, and for me, he's not the perfect Manchester United manager. Now, he's being considered. I think that has to be rubbish. I think there's no way Southgate, if he was to leave England, would join Manchester United. I think he probably knows that the structure of Manchester United is a mess, and when we're trying to fix that. But for me, Southgate, just based on the football that he plays, just is so bad. It's defensive, it'd be boring, and we don't want to see that by another manager at Manchester United. I think we need to enter that phase now where we have a manager who's playing exciting, pragmatic, front foot football. And that's something Erik ten Hag can do, but hasn't done it enough, in my opinion, at Manchester United. And with Southgate, you're going to get a defensive, five-back, boring manager who's going to pick favourites. And that's something that we want to get rid of. Kind of Ollie did that when he was at Manchester United, and look where that ended up. So it's all about getting in the right manager, if you do replace him, that will play the right brand of football. Now, Southgate, you can see he's got the greatest talents at his hand, and he just struggles to play them. I think if you look at the Euros for England, he played Rice and Calvin Phillips as the pivot. Now, for me, you would never do that. You need Rice as the holder, and then you need a more extensive 8. You can see the fact that he already has favourites not picking Tomori for some squad, for example, the favouring of Henderson. Now, for me, that's never bodes well. It might work out at international level, but certainly at club level, you'll immediately get found out. And Manchester United have not been the best in terms of working under managers, and I think particularly the English players will probably favour Southgate coming in. They probably know he's going to start them, and that's something that you don't want to see. Now, Gareth Southgate, as I said, plays some boring football, and for me, I can't see Gareth Southgate winning us any major trophy. So for me, he's an immediate no. If you look at his recent history, got to the Euros final, lost, World Cup quarterfinals, lost, and now it's completely different club and international football. But for me, he's been nowhere near good enough. He's not a good enough manager, and for me, his tactics are absolutely rubbish. So for me, an immediate no, and I hope he doesn't come to Manchester United, because if Ineos are certainly looking at him, there's definitely something dodgy going on, because they know they want the best, and these are some of the decisions that they have to make. And they have to please the fans, and I'm sure the fans will go in uproar over this decision, because it's absolutely disastering. That's not even a word. It's absolutely a disgrace to bring in someone like Southgate. The second option is Thomas Frank. Now, Thomas Frank is a player who is a manager who plays some decent football in at Brentford. I mean, they play some good pressing football. They do play a 5-back, but they are a lower down Premier League side. I think they do play decent football. They score decent goals as well, and they have got a really good thing about him. He likes to play quick tiki-taka football, and for me, he's someone Manchester United shouldn't consider as well. But over Southgate, I'm having Thomas Frank any day. I think Thomas Frank's a manager for me. I don't think he's quite ready to make that step. I think Brentford have only been in the Premier League now for a few years, and I think he continued developing with them. We've seen with big managers, you look at Brighton, Graham Potter, he was doing well at Brighton, went to Chelsea, folded apart and kind of tarnished his reputation. So I'm sure Thomas Frank would love the United job, but I don't think for me it's the right step for Erik to replace Erik ten Hag. Certainly don't think he's better than Erik ten Hag. And yes, you can argue the fact he's working with less players who have less ability, but still, I think Erik ten Hag's a bit better than Thomas Frank. So yeah, that's what I would talk about there. Now, Thomas Frank, there's no doubt he's a decent manager. And he has got some great principles about him, but as I reiterated, there's no point getting him over Erik ten Hag. If you do replace Erik ten Hag, you want to bring in one of the best in class managers who's up and coming, and I'm not quite settled on who that may be, because it's looking like the sack for Erik ten Hag is becoming increasingly inevitable. Now, the third manager is Roberto De Zerbi. Now, someone who's been heavily linked to Manchester United over the past 3-4 months, as the kind of the Erik ten Hag sacking story has beginning to develop. Now, for me, De Zerbi is a decent manager. He plays some really good football at Brighton. They're scoring goals, and yes, they've kind of dropped off in form recently. But for me, out of the managers to replace Ten Hag, he's probably the one that I would probably go for. I think his brand of football is really good. He plays out from the back, and kind of similar to the football that Manchester United fans, and particularly me, want to see. I think it's high pressing, gets the players involved, gets fullbacks involved, a high line as well. And yeah, he sticks to his guns. He never changes it up. So regardless of the opposition, and that's the positive approach you want to see by managers at Manchester United. So it's sad that Erik ten Hag's going to be leaving, but they're the 3 new options at Manchester United have been targeted. There's other options as well. There's Nagelsmann being talked about, Tuchel. So yeah, there's numerous managers. So we'll keep you up to date with what's going on. But thanks for watching.